decluttering and minimalism. These words often go hand in hand, but for many, they feel like decluttering isn't really possible because they don't feel aligned with minimalism. But there are some major misconceptions about what minimalism truly is. So, can you declutter and not be a minimalist? What do you think? Let me know in the comments. So, let's dispel some of those myths. Number one, minimalism is not perfection or always having a perfectly tidy home at all times. It's simply not possible. So, if that's your idea of what you think minimalism is, congratulations. You can take a huge, big breath of fresh air and take a sigh of relief knowing that you can actually be a minimalist and be a human being on this planet, right? We all make mess, so minimalism is not about being perfect. Minimalism is also not about just living with nothing. We'll talk more about that in just a second. And it's also not a destination. If you think that minimalism is a destination, as in if I declutter my home and do XYZ and only have XYZ things and only have 2 pairs of shoes and 1 pair of pants, right? You're setting these kind of invisible confounds around whatever term minimalism you're trying to create in your life. If that's the end all, I think that's where a lot of people get minimalism wrong. It's not a destination. It is a vehicle that helps get you to your destination. And I think one big reason that the term and word minimalism becomes so deeply personal for a lot of people is because their journey through minimalism usually starts with their core values. What's important to you in your life? What's a priority? We all have different core values and family values, and those for any minimalist are interwoven into their choices and into their journey as a minimalist. This is why it really makes me sad when I hear people critique other people who are on their own minimalist journey and say, well, you're not a minimalist because you have this in your house. Or when people ask questions like, here's a picture of my home, is this minimalist enough? And I think those are really the wrong questions to ask. We have to make our home work for us. What other people think about our home, or if we are a minimalist by their terms, it shouldn't matter. We should all use our core values and create a minimalist journey that works for us. For example, I've met people who began their minimalist journey strictly from finances. It had nothing to do with clutter, although they did declutter on their journey, but they were all about paying off debt, saving money, being more intentional with their purchases. I've known other people that began their minimalist journey because one of their core values was helping the environment, and that was really important to them. And so they put their money in brands that they felt were aligned with those values: sustainability, quality. They wanted to know who and where the garments that they were buying were produced, and they got rid of any garments from their closet that didn't align with that. And any future purchases, they put in a lot more consideration into that because that was important to them. You get the idea. We all have different values. So I'm curious, let me know in the comments if any of these myths or terms of minimalism, you've heard these and maybe they've stopped you from getting started, or they stopped you on your journey. Or alternatively, maybe you were on your own minimalist journey and someone told you that you needed to do XYZ and that didn't feel good. You didn't want to do that. So you said, well, I guess I'm not going to be a minimalist, right? It can be very confusing for a lot of people. And all those myths, like if you wanted to be a minimalist, you have to live in a tiny home, or whatever it is, whatever comes to your mind when you think of minimalism. I like to just break all that down for you, and let's just completely wash all of that out of our minds, and you can build up something and make minimalism work for you and your family and your season right now. And seriously, beautiful things can come from it. It's all for you. It's not for other people. So actually, the term minimalism in some dictionaries reads as this: offering or having no more than is required, the bare minimum. And I don't know about you, but I don't really want to live with the bare minimum. I think we're all creatures of comfort, right? We still like to have some things that maybe spark joy and have a function, and maybe we want them but don't truly need them. Then make it work for you. Minimalism, in my humble opinion, should guide you, not define you. And when we get so caught up in what's minimalist and what's not, and this invisible definition that really, to each their own, is completely subjective, then it gets really frustrating. And while it's impossible to hone in on one definition of minimalism, again, because we all choose it for very personal reasons, here are a few favorite definitions that you might go, oh, I really like that. So Joshua Becker, fellow minimalist, says minimalism is the intentional promotion of the things we most value and the removal of everything that distracts us from it. Lisa of Simple Soul says minimalism actually isn't about your stuff. It's about your soul. It's about the you underneath all the stuff. The you underneath all the stuff. Think about that for a second. Is your stuff holding you back from anything? Maybe from a career change, from a new relationship, from just being present. Is it keeping you tied to a past relationship that you don't need anymore? Is it keeping you from new ways of thinking or new hobbies? This is much larger. This is a much larger, grander scale than just stuff, right? And so instead of looking at minimalism as a destination and end all, look at it as a vehicle that's going to help get you to the destination. And for a lot of us, no matter what our core values are, no matter why we're doing minimalism in the first place, that destination is some type of freedom. Freedom from stuff, freedom from stress, freedom from hurry. Maybe you want less rush in your life and less hurry and more calm and more slow and more presence and more intention, more silence and less noise, more calm and less chaos. The list seriously goes on and on and on and on. So regardless of whatever definition you adopt for minimalism, one of the best places to get started, if you decide that's a journey worth taking for you and your family, is to declutter. So let's talk about clutter, right? The big elephant in the room that a lot of people don't want to address. It's like, yeah, I want to be a minimalist, but I also love shopping and I also love my stuff. At least that was me when I got started. Boy, have I learned a lot. So clutter in most dictionaries is defined as disorganized excess. But here again are some other definitions I want to throw out there and see what sticks. Clutter is excessive possessions that are stealing our lives, our time, and our energy. Again, right here we see the word excess. That's meaning, right, there's typically a large volume of things associated with the word clutter. Maybe the show Hoarders comes to mind, right? We tend to think of a lot of stuff, but I want to offer you a gentle reminder that you don't have to have an excessive amount of clutter to have clutter. I could probably go open a drawer right now somewhere in my home and identify something that's no longer needed or used or loved. That is clutter to me. That is how I define clutter. And I don't need to have a trillion of those to all of a sudden have clutter. So just a little tip there. Don't wait till it gets overwhelming. But I found that over the years, as I've helped people really focus on decluttering their home, that just like minimalism, clutter has kind of evolved and takes on different personal meanings for different people. So I think it's so valuable to be able to identify and create a working definition for you and your family for minimalism and for clutter. Because when we have a definition that we understand, we can quickly identify what is clutter and what is not. And as you can imagine, that's really going to help you be able to declutter a lot more stuff. And as you begin to declutter or continue your declutter journey, focusing on those physical possessions and feeling the freedom that you gain in your life in a huge variety of ways is a beautiful thing. And then and only then can you really expand and look at other types of clutter, emotional clutter, mental clutter, and free up your mind and world and continue down not only that declutter journey, but also that minimalist journey. And for a lot of people who start to declutter with no intention of ever heading into a minimalist direction, we see this happen all the time because we crave more of that simplicity. So minimalism can become just the next logical step if that's something you want to do, or you can just focus on decluttering and leave it at that. So whether your whole focus is on minimalism, decluttering, a combination of the two, the idea is it's going to help get you out of that clutter cycle and have a ton more freedom in your life. So if you're ready to conquer that clutter cycle, click the video on your screen now.